The most successful people aren't the ones with the highest IQs, the best connections, or the most impressive degrees. They're the ones willing to do what the intelligent, well-connected, and highly educated consider beneath them. While everyone's searching for sophisticated shortcuts and groundbreaking innovations, true achievers quietly master the basics that others dismiss as too simple or too obvious. I've watched countless brilliant minds fail while average people built extraordinary lives through consistent application of ordinary principles. The greatest irony of success is that it's accessible to almost anyone, yet achieved by remarkably few. That's because most people would rather spend years searching for a magical formula than months doing the unglamorous work that actually produces results. What looks like magic to observers is usually just discipline invisible to the public eye. Success leaves clues. Have you noticed that? I was walking down the street in my hometown years ago when I ran into an old friend. This friend had transformed his life so completely in the span of 3 years that I barely recognized him. Where he once struggled financially, he now owned 3 thriving businesses. Where he once lacked confidence, he now carried himself with quiet assurance. The change was so dramatic that I had to ask him, "How did you do it?" You know what he told me? He smiled and said, "I worked so hard and so smart that people would have no choice but to wonder how I did it." That phrase stuck with me all these years. Make them wonder how you did it. Not because you're trying to be mysterious, not because you're trying to hide your methods, but because you've worked with such focus, such determination, and such consistency that the results seem almost magical to those who haven't witnessed the daily effort. You see, most folks are looking for the magic formula, the secret technique, the hidden shortcut. They want success without the struggle, the rewards without the work, the answers without the questions. And that's exactly why they're left wondering when someone else achieves extraordinary things. I want to talk to you today about how to become that person, the one who accomplishes so much that others can't help but wonder how you did it. And not for the sake of their admiration, though, that will come, but for the satisfaction of knowing you've done what most only dream about. Here's something worth writing down. Success is not a mystery, it's a system. Success leaves tracks, and if you follow those tracks, they'll lead you to the same destination. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. The magic of achievement isn't in sudden bursts of inspiration, though those are nice when they come. The magic is in showing up day after day when no one's watching. I know a woman who wrote a best-selling novel. People called her an overnight success. What they didn't see were the 5 unpublished novels she wrote before that one. What they didn't see were the hundreds of rejection letters. What they didn't see were the early mornings and late nights at her keyboard while the rest of the world was sleeping or watching television. When people asked her, "How did you do it?" she could have given them a step-by-step guide. But no matter how clear her explanation, they still wouldn't truly understand because they didn't witness the invisible work. The thousands of hours of practice, the countless revisions, the moments of doubt that she pushed through when quitting would have been easier. The first key to making them wonder how you did it is simple. Do the work others aren't willing to do, and do it consistently. Here's a truth I learned earlier. You don't have to be extraordinary to get extraordinary results. You just have to apply ordinary disciplines consistently over time. Average people can achieve above average results through consistency. Let me tell you about a young man I met in Dallas years ago. He wasn't particularly gifted. He didn't have exceptional talents. He didn't come from money or connections, but he understood this principle of consistent effort. He decided to become excellent at one small thing in his field, just one specialized skill that others found difficult or tedious. Every day, he spent 1 hour mastering this skill. 1 hour, that's all. While his colleagues were complaining about the work or rushing through it to get home, he focused on becoming exceptional at this one thing. 3 years later, he was earning 10 times what his peers made, not because he was 10 times smarter or worked 10 times harder, but because he applied himself consistently to mastering something valuable that others neglected. When they asked, "How did you do it?" he could tell them exactly how. But the simplicity of his answer made it hard for them to accept. That's the power of invisible work. That's the power of the compound effect. Small, smart choices, consistently made, create results that seem almost impossible to those who don't understand the process. But your results in life won't just be determined by what you do. They'll be determined by who you become. And that brings me to the second key, your personal philosophy. Your philosophy is your view of life, your attitude toward what happens to you, your beliefs about yourself and the world, And your philosophy creates your attitudes, which create your actions, which create your results. I can teach you all the techniques and strategies in the world, but if your philosophy isn't sound, none of it will work for you long term. That's why I've always work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Because if you work hard on your job, you'll make a living. But if you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune. How do you develop a sound personal philosophy? First, by careful selection of what goes into your mind. Your mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant will grow. Plant doubt, fear, and limiting beliefs, and that's what you'll harvest. Plant faith, courage, and empowering beliefs, and your life will reflect those instead. Be careful what you watch and what you listen to. Be careful who you spend time with. Jim Rohn, that's me, always says, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Want to know your future? Look at your friends. I remember meeting a successful businessman who told me that as a young man. He made a list of the 5 people he admired most in his field. Then he found ways to spend time with them, offering to work for free, attending their talks, reading their books, even moving to their city. I knew if I surrounded myself with wisdom, he said, some of it would rub off on me. 5 years later, he was operating at their level. 10 years later, some of them were coming to him for advice. When people asked him, how did you do it? They were looking for a tactic or a strategy, but the real answer was in who he chose to become by carefully selecting his influences. Your personal philosophy also involves clarity about what matters most to you. What are your values? What are your non-negotiables? What will you stand for? And what will you not stand for? Most people never take the time to answer these questions. They drift through life responding to whatever happens around them. Then they wonder why they end up places they never intended to go. But the person who creates clear, written values and reviews them regularly has a powerful advantage. They have a compass for decision making. When opportunities come, they can quickly evaluate, does this align with who I am and where I want to go? This clarity creates speed. This clarity creates power. I knew a woman who could make decisions in minutes that took others weeks or months, not because she was impulsive, but because she was clear about her values. She knew exactly what she wanted and what she stood for. This clarity allowed her to seize opportunities that others missed while they were still weighing pros and cons. When her colleagues asked, how do you always seem to be in the right place at the right time? They didn't realize her advantage wasn't luck. It was clarity. It was a well-developed personal philosophy that let her recognize and act on opportunities that align with her values while others were still trying to figure out what they wanted. That's the power of philosophy. And if you want people to wonder how you did it, start by developing yours. Now let's talk about the fundamentals. Mastering the basics is the third key to extraordinary achievement. Most people are always searching for the advanced strategy, the cutting-edge technique, the latest hack. Meanwhile, they haven't mastered the fundamentals. It's like trying to build a skyscraper on a shaky foundation. It might look impressive for a moment, but it won't stand the test of time. The most successful people I've met in my life aren't doing extraordinarily complex things. They're doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. They've mastered the basics of their field or craft, and they execute those basics with remarkable consistency and quality. I remember watching a craftsman build a beautiful piece of furniture. His tools weren't fancy. His techniques weren't revolutionary. But his attention to detail, his focus, his patience in executing each basic step perfectly, that's what set his work apart. When admirers looked at his finished pieces and asked, how did you create this? They were hoping for some secret technique. The real answer was mastery of fundamentals applied with extraordinary care. The same principle applies in business, in relationships, in health, in any area of life. Master the basics. If you want a successful business, master prospecting, presenting, following up. If you want great relationships, master listening, appreciation, keeping your word. If you want excellent health, master nutrition, exercise, rest. These aren't exciting or mysterious. That's precisely why most people overlook them in search of something more exotic. And that's exactly why mastering them will make others wonder how you get such remarkable results. There's an old saying, we repeatedly do, excellence. Then is not an act but a habit. The basic disciplines done consistently over time will make you a person worth noticing. The daily habits, too small to see in the moment, compound into results too big to ignore. There's something important to understand. Discipline creates freedom. Most people think discipline is restrictive. They resist it because they think it will limit them. But the truth is exactly the opposite. The person who has the discipline to save money has the freedom to seize opportunities when they come. The person who has the discipline to maintain their health has the freedom to pursue their dreams with energy and vitality. The person who has the discipline to master their craft has the freedom to work where and how they choose. I learned this lesson years ago from a mentor who became wealthy from humble beginnings. When I asked him about the key to his success, he said something I never forgot. Freedom comes from discipline. I was willing to say no to what I wanted now for what I wanted most. While others were spending everything they earned, he saved and invested. While others were taking the easy path, he chose the valuable path. While others were focused on looking successful, he focused on being effective. 20 years later, he had a freedom that made others wonder. How did he do it? The answer was simple but profound. He mastered the fundamentals that most people ignore. If you want to stand out, if you want to rise above the crowd, if you want to achieve results that make others wonder, you must be willing to do what others won't. And that brings us to our fourth key, setting yourself apart. The difference between average and exceptional isn't as large as most people think. In many fields, a small performance improvement, just 5 or 10 better than the competition, can lead to dramatically different results. I call this the slight edge, and understanding it can transform your approach to achievement. Think about a race. The person who wins an Olympic gold medal doesn't run twice as fast as the person who comes in last. Often they win by just hundredths of a second. But the rewards, recognition, and opportunities that come to the gold medalist are exponentially greater than those that come to the last place finisher. The same principle applies in business and education, in almost any competitive field. Small edges in performance often create huge differences in results. Understanding this truth leads to a powerful question. What small improvements could set you apart in your field? Maybe it's being 10 more prepared for meetings. Maybe it's following up 10 faster. Maybe it's being 10 more attentive to details. These small distinctions might seem minor, but compound them over time, and they create results that appear extraordinary to outside observers. I remember talking with a salesperson who consistently outperformed his colleagues by a wide margin. When they asked him how he did it, his answer was surprisingly simple. I make 2 more calls each day than our sales plan requires. Just 2 more calls. A small difference in daily activity, but over the course of a year, those 2 daily calls translated to more than 500 additional opportunities to make a sale. No wonder his results seemed almost magical to his peers. The slight edge isn't just about doing a little more than others. Sometimes it's about doing things a little differently. It's about finding your unique approach, your unique contribution, your unique perspective. Some of the most successful people I've known have turned what others consider disadvantages into their greatest strengths. They found ways to stand out by embracing what makes them different rather than trying to blend in. I think of a young woman I met who had a speech impediment as a child. Rather than letting this challenge defeat her, she became fascinated with words and communication. She studied language with unusual intensity. By adulthood, she had overcome her speech impediment and become such a powerful communicator that companies paid her thousands of dollars to speak at their events. When people asked her, "How did you become such an exceptional speaker?" they were looking for presentation techniques. They didn't realize her advantage came from turning a challenge into an opportunity for mastery. That's the power of setting yourself apart. Find the place where your unique strengths, your unique story, your unique approach can create value in a way that others can't easily duplicate. Now let's talk about the 5th key, to making them wonder how you did it. Effective goal setting. Most people have wishes, not goals. Wishes are vague. Goals are specific. Wishes depend on circumstances. Goals create circumstances. Wishes change with the wind. Goals remain steady until achieved. If you talk to people who have achieved remarkable things, you'll find they had remarkable clarity about what they wanted and why they wanted it. They didn't just say, "I want to be successful." They defined exactly what success meant to them by when they wanted to achieve it and what they were willing to give up to get there. This clarity creates a power that most people never experience. When you know exactly what you want, your mind starts working for you 24 hours a day. You begin to notice opportunities that were always there, but previously invisible to you. You start attracting people and circumstances that can help you. I remember a conversation with a man who had built a business empire from scratch. When I asked about his approach to goal setting, he shared something fascinating. "I don't just set the goal," he said. "I create reasons so compelling that achieving the goal becomes a must, not a should." This distinction between must and should is crucial. Most people set goals they think they should achieve. but when challenges arise, as they always do, should isn't strong enough to keep them going. Only must has that power. How do you turn a should into a must? By connecting it to your deepest values and creating consequences for inaction that you're not willing to accept. The same businessman told me that he once wrote down 100 reasons why he must achieve a particular business goal. Not 10 reasons, not 20 reasons, 100 reasons. He reviewed these reasons daily. When obstacles appeared, as they always do, these reasons pulled him forward when motivation alone would have failed. Most people quit when they hit the wall, when the excitement fades, when the initial motivation disappears. That's exactly why achievement that lasts requires more than motivation. It requires purpose, reasons, and solid decision making. Another crucial aspect of goal setting is measuring progress. What gets measured gets improved. The most successful people track their advancement with unusual diligence. They know exactly where they stand in relation to their targets. This measurement creates accountability that most people avoid. I knew a woman who tracked every dollar of her business revenue daily, not just monthly or quarterly like her competitors. This frequent measurement allowed her to make adjustments quickly, to see trends others missed, to respond to market changes with unusual speed. When her business grew at 3 times the industry average, others asked, "How did you do it?" They were looking for a marketing secret or management technique. The real answer was in her unusual commitment to measurement and accountability. But goal setting isn't just about the external achievements. It's also about who you become in the process of achievement. The greatest value of a goal isn't what you get, but what you become by reaching for it. The character you develop, the skills you build, the wisdom you gain. These internal achievements often prove more valuable than the external ones. That brings us to our 6th key: creating value for others. I spoke with an entrepreneur who had built multiple successful companies. When I asked about his business strategy, he said something profound. "I never focus on making money. I focus on solving problems worth solving. The money follows naturally." This approach requires thinking differently about what it means to succeed. Instead of asking, "How can I become successful?" ask, "How can I become valuable?" Instead of asking, "How can I get to the top?" Ask, "How can I help the most people?" The marketplace rewards value creation. It always has, and it always will. The more value you create, the more you'll be rewarded financially, emotionally, spiritually. But this requires developing yourself, constantly expanding your capacity to serve. I often tell the story of 2 woodcutters competing to see who could cut more wood in a day. One worked nonstop, never taking a break. The other stopped working for 15 minutes every hour. At the end of the day, the one who took regular breaks had cut significantly more wood. How? Well, he was taking breaks, he was sharpening his axe. This story illustrates a crucial truth. Your earning ability is directly tied to your learning ability. The more you learn, the more you earn, not because knowledge itself is rewarded, but because applied knowledge creates value. The most successful people are lifelong students. They read voraciously, they ask questions constantly, they seek feedback eagerly, not because they're preparing for some future test, but because they understand that learning directly impacts their ability to create value. I remember talking with a professional who doubled his income in just 18 months. When his colleagues asked how he did it, they expected to hear about negotiation tactics or job hopping strategies. Instead, he told them about the specialized knowledge he had developed through systematic study, reading, courses, mentorship, practice that made him dramatically more valuable to his clients. His colleagues had the same access to the same resources. What they lacked was the commitment to ongoing growth. They wanted the results without the process. They wanted the rewards without the work. That's why creating extraordinary value requires becoming an extraordinary person. It requires developing skills, knowledge, character, and wisdom beyond the average. It requires becoming someone worth knowing, worth hiring, worth promoting, worth following. And this brings us to our 7th key, the role of character and integrity. In a world where cutting corners has become commonplace, integrity has become a competitive advantage. When your word becomes known as your bond, when people know they can count on you absolutely, you create a reputation that opens doors others can't even see. Character isn't just about being honest, though. That's foundational. It's about consistency between what you say and what you do. It's about keeping promises to others and to yourself. It's about doing the right thing, even when it costs you in the short term. I've observed something fascinating throughout my career. People of character attract opportunities that never come to those who compromise. Why? Because character creates trust, and trust is the foundation of all worthwhile relationships, personal and professional. Think about it. Who would you rather do business with? Someone who might cut corners to increase profits, or someone who will do what's right even if it costs them? Who would you rather hire? Someone who exaggerates their accomplishments, or someone who honestly acknowledges both strengths and weaknesses? Who would you rather have as a friend? Someone who tells you what you want to hear, or someone who tells you what you need to hear? Character doesn't just influence how others see you. It determines how you see yourself. And that self-perception affects everything. Your confidence, your decisions, your resilience in the face of setbacks. I remember consulting with a company that was experiencing remarkable growth while their competitors struggled. When I asked the CEO about their competitive advantage, I expected to hear about their technology or their marketing strategy. Instead, he said, "We make it easy to do business with us. We keep our promises. We admit our mistakes. We make things right when we fall short." That shouldn't be a competitive advantage, but in today's world it is. The foundation of this advantage wasn't a strategy. It was character. It was integrity woven into the fabric of the organization. And it created results that made competitors wonder, how do they do it? The truth is, character compounds like interest. Each time you honor your word, each time you do what's right, even when it's difficult, each time you take responsibility rather than making excuses, you add to your character account. Over time, this account grows to create opportunities and rewards that appear almost magical to those who don't understand the process. Let me tell you what I've learned after decades of studying success and achievement. The truth about extraordinary results is both simpler and more demanding than most people want to believe. It's simpler because the principles are straightforward. Do the work others aren't willing to do. Develop a sound personal philosophy. Master the fundamentals. Find ways to set yourself apart. Set goals with compelling reasons. Create value for others. Build unshakable character, and you'll have an answer for them. An answer they might not fully appreciate until they're ready to do what you've done. You'll tell them about the early mornings and late nights when no one was watching. You'll tell them about the books you read when others were watching television. You'll tell them about the risks you took when safety seemed more appealing. You'll tell them about the difficulties that tested your commitment and the choices that defined your character. You'll tell them the truth. Extraordinary results come from ordinary actions, performed with extraordinary consistency, commitment, and consciousness. And then perhaps they'll understand what I'm telling you. The wondering isn't in the what, it's in the will. It's not about techniques or tactics, it's about tenacity. It's not about shortcuts. It's about showing up day after day after day. The good news is you can start right now. You don't need special permissions or credentials. You don't need to wait for perfect circumstances. You just need to begin and to persist. Start with one small discipline that you'll practice daily. Choose one area where you'll consistently go beyond what's expected. Select one valuable skill you'll develop systematically. Identify one problem you'll solve exceptionally well. The path to making them wonder begins with these simple choices, compounded over time. I began today by telling you about my friend who transformed his life so dramatically that I barely recognized him. Let me tell you how his story ended. Years after our chance meeting, he told me something I never forgot. He said, "The strangest thing happened after I achieved success. People started asking me for the secret, the formula, the magic technique. When I told them it was just consistent hard work and good decisions compounded over time, most of them looked disappointed. They wanted something more complicated, more mysterious." Then he laughed and said, "I guess that's the final achievement. When your success becomes so remarkable that people refuse to believe the simple truth of how you created it. That's the ultimate irony that can unlock you in the wonder. Even when you tell them exactly how you did it, they may not believe you. The principles are too simple, the path too accessible, the price too clear. They'll keep looking for magic where only method exists. But you'll know the truth. And more importantly, you'll live it. So let me ask you, are you ready to begin the journey that will one day make them wonder how you did it? Are you ready to apply these principles consistently until your results speak for themselves? Are you ready to become the person who achieves what others only dream about? The opportunity is yours. The choice is yours. The future, extraordinary or ordinary, is yours to determine. What will you decide?